To defining and measuring poverty through capabilities, the Supplemental Poverty Measure, and the Human Development Index. A quote by Sen: "The lack of economic freedom could be a very major reason for loss of liberty."
We believe poverty should be defined through the capabilities approach and measured through a quasi-relative perspective, but don't worry, we will get into those later.
We define poverty through the inadequacy of a person's economic means and the means to prevent capability failure. Capability failure, in other words, is the inability to achieve one of many capabilities.
The capabilities approach is about the quality of life. Under Nussbaum's capability approach, everything is relative. It is easy to measure the length of a life, but measuring the quality of a life is much more difficult.
Nussbaum came up with 10 central capabilities, the first being life, which is living the full length of a normal human life and having a life worth living.
The second is bodily health. This means having good health, shelter, and nourishment, and being able to reproduce.
The third is bodily integrity, which is being able to move freely, making one's own choices, and to be secure from assault.
The fourth is senses, imagination, and thought. This means being able to use one's mind in a truly human way.
The fifth is emotions, which is being able to love, care, and grieve for other beings, and emotional development.
The sixth is practical reason. This means being able to critically think, reflect, and plan one's life.
The seventh is affiliation, which is being able to respect and live with other beings, and also to have social interactions.
The eighth is other species. This means being able to show concern and live with animals, plants, and nature.
The ninth is play, which is being able to have fun and to enjoy oneself.
The 10th is control over one's environment. This includes two aspects, a political aspect and a material aspect. The political aspect includes being able to participate actively in politics and having rights and protections. The material aspect includes having the right to property and equal employment, and also being protected from unwarranted search and seizure.
So what difference would the capabilities approach make to poverty analysis? So we came up with problems and benefits. And some of the problems are that it's hard to measure and to record all of the data. And on top of that, it's hard to determine which of the capabilities are the most valuable.
The benefits include the method being evaluative and ethical. The method also tells us what to value.
So to take a step back, we wanted to ask the question, what does it mean to be human? So we decided that to be a human, you would have the freedom to make decisions, to have your own rational thought, and to be self-aware and to be able to reflect on yourself and your life.
Further, we asked the question, what does it mean to achieve a minimally decent human life? There should be no tragic choice in a minimally decent human life. Tragic choice means the violation of an entitlement grounded in basic justice, one that in a fully just society no person has to bear. A minimally decent human life should also include the 10 central capabilities that we mentioned earlier.
So in the beginning, we just covered what poverty means and how it's defined, but now we're going to go into how it's measured. So we came up with two different ways, and the first being capabilities. And through the capabilities, we're going to touch on the Human Development Index. And the second way is the Supplemental Poverty Measure, which we're going to get into too.
The Human Development Index emphasizes people and their capabilities. It was chosen because people and their capabilities should be the ultimate criteria for assessing the development of a country, not economic growth alone. It measures the achievements of a decent human life. It uses these three concepts to measure: a long, healthy life, knowledge, and a decent standard of living.
The supplemental poverty measure is the inadequacy of a person's economic means, and this is what we said in the beginning. But the supplemental poverty measure, known as the SPM, is a quasi-relative measurement. So what does quasi-relative mean? So to start with relative, that just means it's a comparison as to what others have, and quasi meaning it only measures what people spend on. So in this case, it's spending on the FCSU, which is food, clothing, shelter, and utilities. So why the SPM and not the OPM? So we haven't really covered the OPM yet, but it stands for the Official Poverty Measure, and it's another measurement that people use as well as the SPM. So the SPM is, as we said, is a quasi-relative approach. It measures inequality, but the biggest thing is that it does not include capabilities. So what does it include? It includes in-kind benefits, which are food stamps and SNAP, EITC, which is Earned Income Tax Credit, subsidized housing, home energy assistance, TANF, which stands for Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, Medicaid, which lessens the ability for MOOP, which is medical out-of-pocket costs. But it's different from the OPM because it deducts childcare expenses, taxes, MOOPs, and work transportation costs. And so who it covers family, but is blind to inequalities within a family unit. So while it may seem that it covers a lot, there's also a lot that it does exclude. So it really only includes the bare minimums. We look at the work transportation costs and we think that's a huge benefit, but that's really only a necessity to get to work. That's not a transportation cost to go to the park or something else.
Positives of the OPM include that it is a standardized measurement, and it has been used over many years, so it shows long-term trends. But it is an absolute approach. It also does not capture inequalities or human security and empowerment. Now, for a hypothetical example. Ellie the starving artist lives in New York City, where high prices are common. The SPM reflects this, however the OPM does not. She chooses to follow her dream while neglecting other jobs and opportunities. This leads to low income. This also leads to rejecting the ability to achieve other capabilities. She is capable of getting another job and having a steady income to support herself, however she chooses to follow her dreams instead, which represents the choice involved with capabilities. This further reduces expenditures on FCSU. This means food, clothing, shelter, and utilities. This is incorporated in the SPM.
Thank you.